Kyle Slingo, one of our supernomies, aka the patrons, asked a question in today's AMA: when shopping for a new computer, what exactly do you look for? My main goal, his main goal, is for video editing. He was thinking a Mac, but he's not sure what to do. Thoughts? Well, Kyle, it's a great question, and no matter how I answer it, I'm both right and wrong. I'm right in the sense that you're asking me what I would do. I'm wrong in the sense that how I answer is not necessarily how someone else would answer. I will tell you that you will be well served by just about any computer that's out there. It depends on what you want most. If you plan on using Adobe's video editing suite, you could be served with a Windows machine, a full-on PC, or a Mac, because a Mac is a PC, can run full-on Windows, not an emulation. Boot Camp works just as fine, and you don't notice any kind of speed discrepancies. Of course, you could also run Windows inside of Parallels. I wouldn't recommend it for hardcore video editing, but in a pinch, you could use Parallels, a virtual machine that's in keeping performance in mind. You can get it done running Windows on top of OS X. But if you see the tools that are only available for OS X, I almost said iOS, different from OS X, iMovie and or Final Cut Pro, then I would say that your option is really only the Mac. Something running OS X in a legal capacity, not violating any kind of terms of service or license agreement. I happen to use Final Cut Pro, the latest version, Final Cut Pro 10, and I like it. I moved up on OS X from iMovie, and I used iMovie, and iMovie's ample. My dad edits video in iMovie on the iPad, and he does a vlog every week or so. So it works. Is it going to be a full-on type of computer that you're talking about? No, not necessarily. But, you can use your tablet device to edit video if you find the right software. On Windows, I never really found a video editor that I loved. And I talked about this a few weeks ago. I think it was a Q&A, a separate video that we did, talking about editing video options, so I don't want to dive too deeply into that. Obviously, Adobe is available on OS X and Windows. The only thing that I would say should steer you in terms of video being a choice for OS X is knowing that you want to use Final Cut Pro 10 or iMovie. And honestly, I wouldn't make a decision on buying a Mac based on I want to use iMovie. I wouldn't do it. That's Final Cut Pro 10, I think, is reasonable. I have had very few problems with Final Cut Pro 10. It does exactly what I need to do. It's powerful, the new version, but not so powerful that it smacks you in the face with the interface. I never got into Adobe Premiere. I know a lot of people have. You do have the option of living inside of multiple operating systems if you go that route of Adobe. Now, if you are a fan of Adobe software, I say you've got wider options. But you're asking me, or you're really saying in your question, you're thinking about a Mac. I'm saying that you don't have to just think about the Mac. You got to think about what you're using it for and what software you intend on using. And unfortunately, unless you've had experience with the software, you may not know whether or not you want to use it. Some people are diehard these users, and other people are diehard these users on just about everything. It's not a religion, though. It's just a choice. So you make your choice. I guess it is kind of like, no, I don't want to get into it. I honestly, I don't care. I have no horse in this race. I want you to be happy just like I'd want anybody to be happy. You could build your own PC. You could buy one off the shelf. You could buy something from Apple. You could buy something through another OEM. There are a lot of options for you. If you've never done video editing before, I would ask you to think of 5 or 6 other reasons why you would go with a Mac over, say, a Windows PC. I really would. Because if you're used to Windows, and maybe it's Linux. I don't know if you're going from Linux to OS X. I don't know. You didn't really give me much context, and that's okay. That's not a complaint. Because there are plenty of video editing options on Linux as well. I mean, it's video editing. It boils down to having a software experience that matches your needs. But if you're used to living in Windows, it's a dramatic departure. It's a dramatic leap because it's a different type of usability. Is one better or worse? Absolutely not. And anybody who says otherwise doesn't really quite understand how computer software works. I mean, you can get the same things done. It's just going to happen differently. If you treat OS X like it's Windows, you're going to fail. If you treat Windows like it's OS X, you're going to fail. Windows is Windows. OS 10 is OS 10. Any version of Linux is any version of Linux. They all have their own merits and, of course, their drawbacks. So if video editing is the thing driving you to a Mac, what I'm telling you is if there's an outmoded argument, it's, well, Macs are better for media production. There are people who still argue that. I'm like, what century are they living in? It hasn't been that case for years. You can do just as well with media production on Windows or even Linux to a certain degree than you can on OS 10. So OS 10 isn't just for people who do media production. Yeah, I don't know what else to tell you. So don't base your decision on an outmoded argument of why the Mac is better than the PC. And that's not empirical. It's all relative, dude. I think you could be happy, yes. But I don't know you as a user. I think you have to come up with more than just a reason of video editing on the Mac, though. Now, let's say you buy you look at a PC and you see it similarly priced to a Mac, and then you start making comparisons in prices. Well, Apple offers something radically different than a lot of other companies do. That may be something that you value. It may not be. That's what I'm saying. It's like, which is better? There's no answer. There is no answer. But that I think if I had a final answer for you, a suggestion for you, in terms of thinking of getting a Mac, think of more than a reason of video editing, if only because you could do that on other platforms as well. And for whatever it's worth, I loved Microsoft. I said this in the video editing video. I love Microsoft, the old Movie Maker. That was my favorite video editing software on Windows. So then you ask me, what do I look for in a new computer? And I'm not so much feature driven. And I used to be. I used to say, wow, that has this GWiz feature. And a lot of that GWiz feature would kind of wear off. It'd become a gimmick quickly. Like, oh, that was cute, but I don't really use the thing that I thought I would use all the time because it's annoying and it doesn't work very well. So I tend not to buy on features. I tend not to buy on specs because, I've had spec'd out hardware that runs like crap because the software is junk. Or there's a bottleneck that I cannot troubleshoot my way through. Hardware specs are just one thing. They're numbers on a box, as far as I'm concerned. What's the experience, right? Just because it's theoretically faster, does that mean in real-world applications, is it going to actually be faster? So I tend to, when I go to upgrade a new computer, I look for something that is demonstrably close to 2 times as fast as what I might be using that computer for right now. So if I could cut my video processing time in half, man, time is everything. How many times have I said this to everybody? Time is the most valuable thing you have. You want more time. Time's the one thing you can't get back. You can get everything back. Everything except time. Use your time wisely. And then it boils down to, yeah, you could save money here, but how much more time is it going to take you to do the things that you're doing? That takes away from other things you could be doing. So you gotta keep that in mind. So I tend not to invest in new computers as frequently. That was obviously something that I didn't realize 6 years ago when I got a Mac Pro, I guess 2008. I didn't realize it was going to last 6 or 7 years, and it did. We're still in the process of giving that away when we reach 1,000 true patrons, aka supernomies. I'm giving the Mac Pro away to someone. It might be you. I'm not promising anything. Can't play favorites. But I watch very closely, but I just don't want to upgrade my computer as frequently as more frequently than every 3 years, maybe. And if I can hold off, I will, because computers don't really have great resale value. And yeah, you could build your own and spec it to the gills and put everything you want into it, and then just continually upgrade it and go that route. That's fine. I'm not gonna take away from that. I'm not that type of person anymore. It's not my thing. There are a lot of things that aren't my thing. Just because I'm not into building my own car does not mean that I don't enjoy driving a car. And I don't really enjoy driving a car. It gets me from point A to point B. Macs do have decent resale value, no doubt about that. Whether or not you want to do that, it's up to you. But yeah, there are a lot of these things that have to factor in to my decision to upgrade when I know I'm going to get something demonstrably better. higher resolution screen, or at least a sharper screen in terms of PPI, faster, demonstrably, better equipment inside that has been benchmarked in a variety of ways to be seen. Yes, this is definitely better. This is better seen across the board. And then you look at the numbers and say, well, this is going to be twice as fast. That's when I upgrade. If I'm looking at specs or speed, it's when it's twice as fast, roughly. Usually, that's how I do it. And then I go from there. So anyway, that's my answer to the question.